I tell my friends who are based in Rochester that I'm from Wisconsin because I'm a Packers fan, but let's not hold that against me. I'm originally from Scotland, but I lived in Scotland until I was 15 and then travelled around Europe. I got my master's degree in University of Strathclyde. But since then, I've been travelling, implementing ERP solutions in Africa, Europe, and Australia. I made America my home in 2010, and where I set up Connect Prime / Andrew James Advisory Group with the intention of helping companies implement ERP solutions. But you and I spoke, as I said, 2.5 years ago, Jim, because one of my frustrations was I read the standard, fell in love with the standard for some obscure way, and thought this is a really good way to manage assets, irrespective of whether physical or non-physical. And that's the reason why we reached out to each other, we talked to each other, and I really wanted to create a course that had strategic intent and more aligned to the office, the CEO's office, than just the maintenance department. The lowest level is the asset life cycle. A lot of the training starts at the asset life cycle that I've looked at and works its way down. One of the things that I wanted to do, and we all have the same view, is I wanted to create material that if somebody was at mid-level management, they could take that training material and use that as a stepping stone to get into the boardroom. We really need more maintenance people, we need more financial people talking the same language. And that's part of the reason why I really wanted to build that course. And I think we did a very, very good job of doing that. One of the things I've been frustrated in training material in the past is terminology. People have got different expectations and definitions. And until you get your definitions and you're understanding what they mean and what they don't mean, you're really fighting a lost cause, because people really aren't engaging with you because they just don't. It's a different language, and it's very difficult for finance to talk to maintenance in that regard. So we have two formats. One format at this moment in time is not operational. That's the on-site training. That's where we went to clients in Florida and Washington and also Chicago. We've trained departments in ISO 55000. So they achieve the course, they understand the material, they go through the material, they have exercises. That normally takes 4 days on site, led by one of our trainers. Day 1 and 2 is really understanding the terminology, the fundamentals, so they understand the guiding principles. Day 3 is when we start to create a thing called a SAMP, which I'm sure most of you know about, the Strategic Asset Management Plan. And we used the Strategic Asset Management Plan research done in Europe in regards to transportation. And we build our own case study around that. And then we break the class into separate groups, and they create their interpretation of the SAMP. The reason why we do that is to increase communication, but also to show there's really no right solution for the SAMP as long as you kind of tick the boxes and it's adopted through a change management policy and procedure. And then we have something which I believe is quite unique, is that we know that people want different things from ISO 55000. If you're a person from the maintenance department, you want to know what ISO is going to help you on a day-to-day basis. If you're from a financial perspective, you want to know, well, what's ISO 55000? How's it going to impact my capital planning method? How is it going to impact my view of the asset register, which we can talk till the cows come home? And if I'm not involved in asset, if I'm a CEO, I just leave that to the finance people and the operational people. What's the impact for me? So we have two special topics that have vertical capabilities, such as utilities, public sector. And we have horizontal views, which is ISO 55000 within change management, and then the importance of leadership within ISO 55000. So those are about 2 hours long to get people, give them a kind of data point that they're not normally familiar with. After that, they're able to sit the exam either on site or online, which is all AI based. So, the chances of fraud or cheating or anything is minimal. And then that was popular till basically the end of the world, shall we say, COVID. And now we've experienced a severe uptake in our online training. Our online training is slightly different compared to some of our competitors or compared to some of the other people in the market. We have a hybrid. We really want to make sure that we have an instructor, a certified instructor, who's helping you understand the basics, Jim, who's getting people to understand ISO 55000. The reason why that's important is if you don't have somebody cross-checking your interpretation of ISO 55000, most people go down the merrily way and not really understand the right definitions and the policies and procedures. So we have a certified trainer who helps the group of individuals who are off online remotely work together. We also have class activities together, virtual class activities, which are recorded, so people can really get together and discuss problems that they experience with an existing client or at the implementation site or at their organization, and see how ISO 55000 can help them. And that takes 18 days to complete. And the reason why it takes 18 days, the commitment is between an hour and a half every day, Monday to Friday, because we want people to do this at hours of the day that they can do the normal day-to-day operations. We've had people in Europe and Asia take the course and certify, which is great. What we have done for a group of consultants, we can talk about that later on, because of COVID, they decided to take a complete refreshed view of training. And with them, we developed a 2-week version of that. And it's a little bit more concentrated. It's about 2.5 to 3 hours a day. But after the 10 days, they were able to certify 21 people, 20 or 21 people certified. And I think they've got another X amount of people certified, plan to be certified in the next 2 to 3 months. So just now, the main interest for us and drive for us is online training. Sadly, but we just have to accommodate that.
Yeah. So as there's been some, Q&A, you probably have seen that the certification is 855K.
Yeah.
And we have pretty little pins that come along. I should have one here, but I don't have one right in front of me that people get. So AJAG does the training, and ALN administers the test through our training partner, Proctoral. People take the test on their computer, wherever they are. There's certain requirements for that. You have to have a camera and no open books, etc. But that's worked really well and has been strong. And we've got a lot of feedback that between the class prepares people for the test, and that the test is fair and difficult, but but it's, well, I should say is difficult but fair, and it's on the material. And we've had, since we require people to take the training class to take the test, we've had a very high success rate on the test, and it's not an easy test.
Yeah, and it's worked out quite well because because of the segregation or the separation of the Chinese wall phone, we don't know what's an exam, and that really gives us the capability when a student asks us what's an exam, we can honestly say we don't know, and we like it that way because we focus on the material and we focus on the stuff that will help them in the day-to-day career to implement or get their organization to be certified in ISO 55000. And then obviously through the exam that validates their understanding of it, which is really, really good. And obviously, if they fail the first time around, they're able to sit again. And people have said that when they fail and they've done it again, they've actually learned more. But that's really good for them to give that kind of praise. And so we appreciate that. And that's because Lindsay and her team have done a great job of conducting those training sessions of a high standard and really getting people to understand and adopt ISO 55000 the correct way. I've been contacted by 2 IT companies in the last 4 or 5 months, and they said, well, you do a 55K training and certification. I said, well, we do the training, but our partner organization, ALN, does a certification. Well, can you certify my exam? Can you certify material, our software? And I said, no, ISO 55000 does not certify your does not certify your IT solution. And any salesperson who sells ERP solutions or IT solutions that tells you that, they're not telling the truth, for want of a better phrase. We teach that individual to help them be successful if their organization, whether it be public or private, implement ISO 55000 and get certified in ISO 55000. That's the organization. Our aim is to get people qualified and trained up so they can assist in the organization to be certified in 55,000. And it's really quite interesting trying to have those communications. And I don't know if Jack's released that white paper yet, but Jack Kelly's white paper on self-certification is brilliant, and it's a really good starting point for people who really want to understand the differences and what it means for an organization to be properly certified in ISO 55000. You know, we say from day one, we don't certify you to be ISO 55000 certified as an organization. We certify you to say that you understand ISO 55000 to help your organization implement ISO 55000. Is that okay? Does that make sense from you, Jim?
Yep. Professional certification and system certification.
Exactly.
Related, but very different concepts.
Yeah.
So Richard, you had sent me some notes about asset management myths.
Yep.
Think of some asset management myths that you like to dispel.
Well, there's a lot of myths going around about masks and not masks and all that stuff. So I'll avoid that for various reasons. I said before, one of my biggest pain points is when IT companies phone us up and say, well, can you certify our IT solution? I have to categorically say, no, I can get your people certified in ISO 55000. They can develop solutions around that help an organization be certified. But to dispel any views around that, we do not certify our IT solution to be ISO 55000 certifiable. As I said before, Jack Kelly's paper on self-certification is great. And it's really quite interesting how some organizations really want to self-certify. And Jim, I think you and I are aligned on that. I really don't see the benefit of self-certification for an organization to say that they're certified in ISO 55000. I mean, a friend of mine, and I won't mention the person's name, said it quite harshly, but I think it was actually quite correct when he said it. It's like, being self-certified is like asking a pack of wolves to look after a flock of sheep. You go back the next day and say, have we missed any sheep? You know, and it's not an attack. It's just purely the fact that self-certification tells you what you already know. Having your organization certified by an independent third party to be in compliance with ISO 55000 allows you the opportunity from a third party who has no political interest for you or monetary interest for you to be certified one way or another, to look at your organization and say, does this organization meet the criteria of ISO 55000? And I think for me, that really is important what Jack Kelly's trying to stress. And I think it's something that, you know, we'd really like to get that more communicated internationally to see the real benefit, you know, such as improved capital planning, improved access to financial institutions, because if you're independently certified, insurance companies tend to like you, tend to offer you better premiums and loan options and so on. So that's one of my key myths. My biggest myth around ISO 55000, and it's kind of aligned what we were talking at the beginning of this discussion, was ISO 55000 is equal to fixed assets. Only talk to me with ISO 55000 if I'm going to build a bridge or if I'm going to build a transmission distribution center. It doesn't make that. I mean, ISO 55000 is so much more than that. You can talk about physical assets, you can talk about non-fixed assets, you can talk about non-physical assets such as goodwill, such as data. And I think our training has tried to convey that quite well, and it's really important that the ISO is looked at purely from a asset perspective, not just singly from a fixed assets or large corporate and a large capital investment perspective. We basically do focus primarily on consulting within the healthcare sector and utilities. We had, because of COVID, we had to delay a project in South America. That was an organization, hospital group, that wanted to be certified in ISO 55000. Sadly, they realized in the beginning of March of this year that, you know, ISO 55000 had to take the back burner, but hopefully when things become a bit more stable, we'll get back to them and get them certified in ISO 55000. That's done with one of our partners in South America. From my experience, it's really important getting ISO 55000 on the discussion before you look at an ERP solution. From my perspective, ERP is a strategic direction, it's a strategic tool, but the ISO should cover more than just the ERP solution. So talk to the ERP people after you understand where ISO 55000 comes in. It's a lot more than just EAM. That's my two current takeaways from our consulting experience. One of the misnomers, and I maybe it's consultants who do that, you can get a department to be certified in ISO 55000, or you can have the whole organization. And I think kind of, Jim, I don't want to mention the company that you and I worked with last year on the training, but they had their training or a certain department certified. Is that correct? Not the whole organization.
Right.
Yeah.
It was one segment of a large multinational company.
And I personally would recommend that because it's a lot more controllable. There's not the different time zones and so on to quantify, and you can get your fingers dirty really easily in a controllable manner. Develop a really good, robust SAMP and use that as a template or starting point for other departments. If you want to go for the whole gambit, you're more than welcome to do it. But you know, people tend to remember things that go wrong a lot longer than when things go right. So it's always to get some good brownie points before you go for the big stars, if you get my drift.